Have you ever felt that the more you cling to something, the more it seems to slip away? That job you desperately want, that perfect relationship, that recognition you believe you deserve? Think about it for a moment. What would happen if, instead of obsessively chasing what you want, you simply let it go? Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists of all time, discovered something fascinating about our psyche. When we desperately cling to a desire, we create precisely the opposite energy that repels it. It's like trying to catch water with your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it escapes through your fingers. This phenomenon isn't coincidence. Jung explained it through the paradox of the unconscious. What we resist most gains more power over us, and conversely, what we accept and detach from loses its control over our mind. But before continuing, let me ask you, how many times have you wanted something so intensely that you felt exhausted? How many sleepless nights have you spent obsessing over a specific outcome, a person, a goal that seems to move further away with each step you take toward it? According to Jung, this excessive attachment you feel is nothing but a reflection of an inner emptiness. When we depend on something external to feel complete, we're ignoring a fundamental truth. Everything we seek already exists within us. Jung explained this through the concept of projection. When we project our happiness, our worth, or our sense of fulfillment onto something outside ourselves, we're actually transferring our personal power to that object, person, or circumstance. And in that very instant, we become prisoners of our own desire. Imagine for a moment that you've been pursuing an ideal relationship for years. You've created a perfect mental image of how your partner should be, how they should treat you, and how they should make you feel. Jung would say that you're actually projecting aspects of your own being that you haven't recognized or integrated within yourself. The anima and animus, the feminine and masculine archetypes that Jung believed we all carry within, seek expression. When we don't recognize these energies in ourselves, we desperately search for them in others. But no external person can complete you if you haven't first completed yourself. Stop for a second and think, what would happen if, instead of seeking that perfection outside, you dedicated yourself to cultivating it within? What would occur if, instead of needing someone to feel loved, you learn to give yourself that love? The true power of detachment that Jung described isn't about giving up on your dreams, but about releasing the emotional burden you've placed on them. It's that strange phenomenon whereby letting go you paradoxically attract. Let's take a concrete example. Maybe you've been pursuing a promotion at work for months, even years. You've pushed yourself to the limit, worked overtime, met all the requirements, and yet nothing. Frustration grows, anxiety increases, and with it, your desperation. Does this sound familiar? Jung would explain that this obsession creates an imbalance in your psyche. Your conscious mind is so focused on that goal that your unconscious begins to sabotage you. The result? More obstacles, more frustration, and an ever-increasing distance between you and what you desire. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine that you continue striving, but without that emotional burden. You do your job the best you can, but you release the urgent need for the result to be exactly as you've imagined. In Jung's words, you've integrated the shadow of your failure. You've accepted that you might not get what you want, and precisely because of that, you've reclaimed your power. This is the deepest paradox of detachment. Only when you're willing to lose something are you truly prepared to receive it. But take note, detaching doesn't mean resigning yourself. It's not about giving up on your dreams or settling for less than you deserve. Detachment, as Jung understood it, is a form of higher wisdom. It's recognizing that you are much more than your desires and that your worth doesn't depend on achieving them. Do you remember that feeling of freedom you experienced sometime when you finally could let go of something that tormented you? Perhaps a toxic relationship, a job that consumed you, or even a limiting belief about yourself. That sensation isn't coincidence. It's your authentic self emerging from the shadows of your attachments. Jung firmly believed that this process of detachment was essential for what he called individuation, the journey toward psychic wholeness, toward becoming who we truly are, beyond our masks and conditioning. And this is where the magic really happens. When you detach, you create a space, a void that the universe tends to fill. It's not mysticism, it's deep psychology. By releasing obsessive control, you allow your unconscious to work for you instead of against you. Think about the last times you had a great idea or the solution to a problem. Did it happen while you were obsessively striving? Or was it rather when you were relaxed, perhaps in the shower, driving, or about to fall asleep? Jung would explain that in those moments of detachment, your unconscious was finally able to communicate with you. But detaching isn't easy, is it? Our ego resists, it clings. It identifies so deeply with our desires that the mere idea of letting them go seems like a threat to our identity. If I don't achieve this, who am I? We ask ourselves. Jung had an answer for that. You are much more than you believe yourself to be. Behind the social mask, the persona, as he called it, behind even your conscious desires, there exists a deeper, wiser, more complete being. A being that doesn't need to obsess over specific results because it knows that the real journey is one of self-knowledge. What if I told you that what you really want isn't that job, that relationship, or that specific recognition? What if what you truly long for is the feeling of fulfillment, purpose, connection that you believe those things will give you? Jung invites us to look deeper. He challenges us to question not only our attachments, but the very nature of our desires. Where do they come from? Are they truly ours? Or are they expectations we've internalized from our family, our culture, our society? Often we discover that what we believe we desperately desire is just a symbol, a representation of a deeper need. Perhaps you believe you need professional success, when what you really yearn for is to feel valuable. Maybe you think you need a perfect relationship, when what you're really seeking is to feel unconditionally accepted. The problem arises when we confuse the symbol with the real need. We obsess over a specific path to happiness, forgetting that infinite routes exist to that destination. This is where detachment becomes truly transformative. By releasing not just the outcome, but even the specific form we believe our happiness should take, we open infinite possibilities. We allow life to surprise us with solutions we never would have imagined from our limited conscious perspective. Imagine that you've been obsessed with landing a specific job at a particular company. You've convinced yourself that this is the only path to professional fulfillment. You've sent multiple applications, contacted all your connections who might have influence, visualized again and again what it would be like to work there, and nothing. Now, following Jungian wisdom, you decide to detach. You don't give up on your desire for professional growth, but you release the idea that it has to come in that specific package. You open yourself to other possibilities, maybe even explore areas you hadn't considered before. And then something surprising happens. Maybe you receive an unexpected offer from a different company, offering you a position you didn't even know existed, but that perfectly aligns with your talents and passions. Or perhaps you discover an entrepreneurial opportunity that allows you to express your creativity in a way no traditional job would have allowed. This isn't coincidence. It's the power of detachment in action. By releasing the need for life to conform to your plans, you allow a higher intelligence to come into play. Call it the collective unconscious, synchronicity, or simply the infinite possibilities that exist beyond your limited conscious vision. Jung frequently spoke of synchronicity, those seemingly random but meaningful events that occur in our lives. He noticed that these synchronicities tend to increase when we stop forcing things, when we open ourselves to the unknown, when we detach from our rigid expectations. It's as if the universe responds not to our obsession, but to our openness, not to our control, but to our trust, not to our fear, but to our faith that what is meant for us will find its way. Now, this doesn't mean you should sit passively waiting for your dreams to materialize by magic. Jung was a firm defender of conscious action, directed effort, personal responsibility. Detachment isn't passivity. It's a different form of action. It's acting from confidence instead of fear. It's striving without being attached to the outcome. It's giving your best without your value as a person depending on external success or failure. It's working diligently while maintaining a deep inner peace that says, I am complete with or without this. For Jung, this balance between conscious effort and trust in the unconscious was the key to a full life. He saw the truly individuated person as someone capable of establishing goals, working toward them with determination, and at the same time remaining open to the twists and turns of fate, adapting gracefully to the unexpected. How can we cultivate this detachment in our daily lives? Jung would offer us several practices. First, sincere introspection. Ask yourself regularly, why do I really want this? What do I believe it will give me? Whose desire is this really? Mine or the expectations I've internalized? Second, shadow work. Identify and accept the possibility of not getting what you want. Imagine yourself in that feared scenario. Would it really be the end of the world? Aren't there other possibilities for happiness and fulfillment? Third, connection with the unconscious. Through attention to dreams, meditation, art, or any practice that allows you to access the depths of your psyche, you can discover more authentic desires and unexpected solutions. Fourth, cultivating gratitude for what you already have. Jung understood that obsession with what's missing blinds us to the abundance already present in our life. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to obsessive attachment. And fifth, but not least important, the conscious practice of letting go. This can begin with small daily exercises, perhaps giving up having the last word in an argument or abandoning a rigid routine in favor of spontaneity. Imagine for a moment how your life would be if you could maintain your dreams and goals, but without the emotional burden of attachment. How would you feel waking up each morning, knowing that regardless of what happens today, you are already enough? How would your relationships change if you lived them from freedom rather than need? How would your work transform if you could give your best without the suffocating pressure of achieving a certain result? This is the promise of Jungian detachment, not a life without desires, but a life where your desires don't possess you. A life where you walk toward your goals with determination but without desperation. A life where your worth and your inner peace don't depend on external factors. And here's the final paradox, the great truth that Jung discovered in his extensive work with the human psyche. What you're willing to lose is precisely what you're ready to receive. When you detach from what you desire, you create the psychic space for it to enter your life in ways you perhaps never imagined. Remember that relationship you pursued unsuccessfully, only to find a much deeper love when you had given up on looking for it? Or that project where you failed, opening the door to a much better opportunity that you didn't even know existed? Those aren't accidents. They're the power of detachment in action. At a collective level, Jung believed that this lesson was especially important in our modern Western culture, obsessed with control, achievement, and accumulation. He saw how this obsession is leading us to the edge of psychological and ecological collapse. Detachment, then, isn't just a personal strategy for happiness, it's a collective necessity for our survival. But let's start with ourselves. Today, choose something you've been desperately clinging to. It can be big or small, an expectation about your future, a resentment from the past, a specific image of how your life should be. Now consciously let go. Don't give up on your dream, but release the emotional burden you've placed on it. Remember Jung's words, what you resist persists, what you accept transforms. Accept the possibility that things might not turn out as you plan, and discover the freedom in that acceptance. And as you do, watch carefully what happens. Observe how, paradoxically, by releasing control, things begin to flow. Observe how, by detaching from the outcome, your path becomes clearer. Observe how, by releasing your rigid expectations, life surprises you with possibilities you never would have imagined. This is Jung's great teaching on detachment. It's not about giving up on your dreams, but freeing them to manifest through the infinite wisdom of the unconscious, in ways that might surpass everything your conscious mind could have imagined. What if the real secret isn't getting everything you want, but discovering that you're already complete, with or without it? This is the invitation Jung extends to us. An invitation to the deepest freedom we can experience, the freedom to desire without depending, to strive without obsessing, to live fully without fear of loss. Think about the areas of your life where you've experienced this paradox of detachment. Maybe it was after a painful breakup, when you finally accepted that relationship was over, and right then, your heart began to heal. Or perhaps it was after years fighting for professional recognition, when you finally told yourself enough is enough and started working from authenticity instead of from the need for approval. Jung observed this pattern again and again in his patients. Those who could release their neurotic attachments were precisely the ones who found a fuller life, richer in meaning, and more aligned with their true self. But beware, because our ego is cunning. Sometimes we believe we've detached when in reality, we've only repressed our desires. True detachment isn't denial or suppression. It's full awareness, full acceptance, and then full freedom. How to know if you've genuinely detached or are just repressing? Jung would give us a simple clue. Observe your emotions. Genuine detachment brings peace and openness. Repression, on the other hand, generates resentment, bitterness, or a false indifference that hides unprocessed pain. True detachment is loving. It's compassionate toward yourself and others. It doesn't say, "I don't care," from a place of defense, but "I am at peace," from a place of fullness. It's the difference between closing your heart for fear of pain and opening it so completely that nothing can really hurt you, because your worth doesn't depend on external factors. And this is perhaps the deepest lesson Jung offers us about detachment, that by releasing our external attachments, we discover our deeper connection with ourselves, with others, with life itself. Paradoxically, it's in detachment where we find the most authentic connection, because when you don't need someone to complete you, you can truly love them for who they are, not for what they give you. When you don't need a certain job to feel valuable, you can give yourself to it from creativity rather than fear. When you don't need a certain outcome to be happy, you can fully enjoy the process, the journey, the present moment. And in the end, perhaps you'll discover that what you were really seeking wasn't that specific object, person, or achievement, but the feeling of freedom, peace, fulfillment that comes with detachment. Perhaps you'll discover that the real treasure wasn't in getting what you desired, but in freeing yourself from the need to get it. Jung dedicated his life to understanding the depths of the human psyche, and one of his most profound conclusions was this: true freedom isn't in having everything you want, but in not being prisoner to your desires. True abundance isn't in accumulating more, but in discovering that you are already enough. Today, take that step. Consciously choose to detach from something you've been desperately pursuing. Don't abandon it, simply release the emotional burden you've placed on it. And then observe. Observe how, paradoxically, by letting go, you create the space to receive. By surrendering, you find your power. By accepting what is, you open the door to what could be. This is the gift Jung offers us, the understanding that our attachments are often chains disguised as treasures, and that the true wealth, the real treasure, is in the inner freedom we discover when we finally have the courage to let go. If this message has resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. We all know people trapped in the cycle of obsessive attachment, control, emotional dependence on specific outcomes. By sharing this wisdom, you not only help them, but you reinforce your own path of detachment. Leave in the comments your experience with detachment. At what moment in your life have you experienced this paradox, where by letting something go, you finally received it or found something better? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications to receive more content that will help you deepen your understanding of Carl Jung's teachings and other masters who have illuminated the path toward a more conscious, more fulfilling, and freer life. Remember, what you're willing to lose is precisely what you're ready to receive. When you detach from what you desire, you create the space for it to enter your life in ways you perhaps never imagined. This is the most beautiful paradox of all, that our greatest freedom comes when we release the need to control our destiny. Thank you for being here, for your attention, and for your willingness to grow. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring together the depths of the human psyche and the path to the full life we all deserve to live.